is nothing. Only warm primordial blackness.
A rugged voice emanates from the darkness. Engaged in a heated argument, it quickly becomes apparent the very voices belong to none other than your internal thoughts. With an air of callous disregard, they will you to awaken from the remnants of an alcohol-induced sleep. From there, your character stumbles upright, half naked and feebly massaging his temple. The nature of your surroundings in a quaint hotel room signifies a night of despondent drinking and self-loathing destruction, before you are handed the reins. Developed by Sa utilising the Unity engine, this scene relays the overall tone of Disco Elysium and what lies in store for the player. You are a detective, tasked with leading the investigation into a grisly lynching. Alongside your colleague Kim Kurosagi, your journey in discovering the culprit is one of many twists and turns. In this review, I will share my overall experience and thoughts regarding the main components that make Disco Elysium, such as the narrative, presentation, and gameplay. Before your story begins, you must first build a character archetype. One can either choose from 3 character builds already available or simply craft their own instead. There are 4 main groups that require investment: intellect, psyche, physical, and motoric, each of which supplied varied skills that help to shape and impact the type of detective you wish to be. There's the quintessential intellectual cop, analysing crime scenes and creating logical conclusions, or the more empathetic detective, tapping into the emotions and behaviours of others to gather clues. The player isn't punished for how they choose to invest in a starting build. Wearing certain items of clothing or engaging with narcotics allows the player the opportunity to try alternate skills. Disco Elysium doesn't punish the player, but encourages a flexible meandering of characterization. Your very first moments in a quaint hotel room help to familiarise the player with the controls and inner workings of the game. Points of interest are highlighted for you to investigate, relaying thoughts and information back to you via voice dialogue on the right-hand side of the screen. Following a point-and-click movement control system, the option of governing control directly, there were some issues in how this was utilised. Sometimes I found myself fixed in a certain spot due to surrounding objects or lost in a circling loop. Such instances meant realigning myself upon a specific path to cross obstacles. Many of your alternate thoughts will accompany the screen, emphasised depending on how you invest your skill points. For example, the higher your intellect, the more opportunities arise for a self-aware and helpful internal monologue. These thoughts are a central game component in helping to inform the player of the best course of action and familiarise you with the plot movement. However, be warned that the nature of your thoughts is only sometimes helpful and requires the player to lean on their own observations. Depending on where your skills lie, the endless options presented feel dynamic and rewarding. Due to my fairly high visual calculus skill, I could unearth the crime scene and deduce what happened.
The shards face outward. Whatever broke this window came from the inside.
This shows the unique and engaging skill system at play. Points of interest and explanations can be missed entirely, encouraging the player to seek out new paths. When analysing your surroundings, a skill check will signify how high your skill must be to pass. Following a dice-like chance component, there is the possibility of failing the check completely. When such a case happens, you must wait to try again until you have deposited more points into the specific skill. Certain red checks allow only one attempt until it's blocked completely for the remainder of the game, forcing the player to approach alternate avenues. In an interview with Robert Kurvitz, lead designer and writer of Disco Elysium, ConRPC questions the importance of making mistakes in RPGs. A mistake should affect how you react in the future by responding to what just happened. It should make you feel embarrassed, afraid, regretful. Most of all, it has to be a genuine experience, written in such a way that the player sees the value of it as they build their character. Part of what makes this system so lively and engaging is the possibility of failure and its repercussions, evidenced in the underlying depth of dialogue. Disco Elysium encompasses a unique blend of many different genres, from the overhead view and movement controls reminiscent of a point-and-click adventure, to the more intricate levelling system and dice roll mechanics known in tabletop RPGs. However, Disco Elysium never feels convoluted in this approach. It presents a certain level of genius in its ability to borrow from these alternate concepts while retaining a solid, formidable identity. From then on, Disco Elysium steadily opens its world to you in a digestible manner without overwhelming the player in the process. The backstory and lore feels seamless and natural. Disco Elysium provides an art style reminiscent of an oil painting, with its conceptual design borrowing a dystopian influence. The steady emphasis on certain colours helps to portray a specific emotion, painting a profound picture as you walk the sombre and cold streets of Martinez. The setting captures a poignant feeling of despair and ruin. Bullet-riddled walls frame your pathways, and old factories haunt the encompassing landscape. The feeling of loss of hope is further elaborated in the isolation of Revachol's setting, alone upon the insula. Such a setting proves integral in its design and concept, as the overarching narrative accompanies a town plagued by a bloodied history of conflict and class upheaval. Its harsh exterior mirrors that of the residents and your inner psyche, an often despairing and cynical landscape, offering glimmers of witty and lovable character dialogue amid such strife. In my opinion, Robert Kurwitz has accomplished a huge feat in how brilliant his storytelling capability is, bridging the gap of interactive storytelling via a unique, refreshing format. Within the many twists and turns of the main plot are interwoven essential layers of narrative with profoundly impactful themes and character development. As a result, your experience is anything but linear. As your investigation commences, you must question the many residents that inhabit Martinez. The pronounced outlook feeds the player with information, from the old war veteran with a particular vitriolic disdain of the present, to the huddled group of dock workers lamenting their communist ideals and past revolutions. Such varying layers of narrative depth tie into the main plot exquisitely. With the addition of side quests, more answers are steadily revealed, answers that could otherwise have been missed entirely. Much of your time with Disco Elysium will require reading text and listening to dialogue. The prose style of storytelling is descriptive, presenting information to the player in a natural and fluid manner. For this reason, it never feels indulgent. Coupled with excellent voice acting, it emboldens the central themes and tone. With the definitive edition being fully voiced, Disco Elysium makes great work of this new implementation. With such a wide array of accents, certain character aspects are emphasised, highlighting the stark divide of class that is a central proponent in Disco Elysium's narrative. Such examples include the more rugged Northern English accent, juxtaposed with the southern inflections of the bourgeois. This diversity helps to play upon the preconceived stereotypes and prejudices.
Probably climbed. Kuno was busy down the road when that shit went down. You heard Kuno? Kuno wasn't even in Martinez.
Dialogue and descriptive narration epitomise the multi-layered societal structure that plays a hefty role in Disco Elysium and its organic manner of storytelling. Disco Elysium presents authentic and poignant themes and addresses them with a certain refinement while displaying a rich and complex tone. Moments can be raw and uncomfortable, as well as cynical and cutting. Accomplishing this is no mean feat, yet Disco Elysium never loses its way in creating emotionally diverse scenes. For example, the theme of addiction and the inherent struggle is all-consuming and are reoccurring in your character's development, one of which you can actively influence by quitting altogether or by partaking in such vices. In addition, there is a prevalent theme of despair, failure, and the ever-lamenting expression of loss. The genuine repercussions of how one chooses to alleviate these emotions are a central conflict in your character's life. Your colleague Kim also faces blunt racial tension due to his ethnicity and his sexuality.
That's because I'm half Seolite, or quarter. My father's father was from Seoul, so was my grandmother, but from my mother's side. It's not an interesting topic. It's a part of the world, officer.
You come to realise everyone is escaping something in Martinez. It is up to you as a player to fully embrace and come to realise your character's past to shape his future, or embroil yourself into the sinking wastes of oblivion. The duality of such characteristics only set to establish how dynamic every character feels. Disco Elysium doesn't just present these struggles to you, but actively engages the player into choosing how you wish to approach these hurdles, cultivating your character through his various ideological interpretations. The freedom of choice allows for replay value and a unique opportunity to immerse yourself within the world of Disco Elysium. In doing so, you can mould the type of detective you wish to be. According to Narrative Reformulated, Storytelling in Video Games, the importance of player agency is emphasised. Of particular importance are the agency a gamer is afforded through the gameplay logic and by any avatar she might deploy, the perspective she has with respect to the egoic space, and the dialectic nature of this relationship. These two components extend between the gamer and the game. Suppose one partakes in drug taking and drinking. In that case, it may hold very real implications, impacting your internal thoughts as the struggle progressively increases. The thought cabinet is an in-game mechanic that helps to expand upon this. A thought is triggered, depending on certain dialogue choices or actions. By allocating a skill point into this, a specific stat enhancement or penalty is applied. Will you align yourself with the communist doctrine of the working class? Or are you more of a moralist or a neoliberal? Despite your character's history, he is ultimately a blank canvas for you to nurture. Another component that works to evoke emotion is sound design. Much of the music composed by British Sea Power is integral in helping the steady exposition of certain scenes, curating a tone that culminates into a climactic feel of awe and wonder. There were many instances where I found myself enamoured by the atmospheric sounds that accompanied my journey, such as the soft whistling breeze on the seafront, the undulating waves crashing to and fro, or the more sombre ambient music as you spend your time exploring River Shoal. Sound design's intrinsic role in crafting emotional and impactful scenes alongside the narrative is therefore achieved expertly. I played Disco Elysium Definitive Edition on the PS4 Pro. My experience was smooth, with some issues propping up here and there. Despite a fully voiced cast, spoken dialogue may sometimes be cut out entirely before the text is finished. During transition scenes in which the camera pans, there may be instances of lag for a moment or two. However, this only happened 2 to 3 times max during my playthrough. Also, some items require repeated clicks before being picked up or analysed, but for the most part, instances were few and far between, though some noted bugs that included missing items from the inventory menu. In all, it is difficult to articulate fully the impact Disco Elysium has had on me as a gamer and a reviewer. My experience elicited awe and an overwhelming gratitude as the swirling labyrinth of emotions overcame me during my final moments. I had fallen in love with the ever-charming, astoundingly written characters and residents of River Shoal, enamoured by the ever-articulate design and feel of Martinez and its artful use of imagery. The conjunctive nature of Disco Elysium's tone and themes remained prevalent throughout its duration, working in tandem with sound to evoke an enchanting experience. It is rare for such an art form to tug on the heartstrings, to play on my emotions and critical thinking. Ultimately, Disco Elysium presents a detective story, yet what it entails leaves an experience worthy of being called a masterpiece.
This matters. No, none of this matters at all.